Hello, I'm Ana Ortega, and I made my Art of Mexico final on the featherwork before and after the Spanish conquest. Aztec and featherwork. Feathers were utilized and played an important role in Mexican artwork. The Aztecs used feathers for their headdresses and considered feathers luxury goods. In 1521, Spanish conquistador Hernán Cortés conquered the Aztec Empire and claimed Mexico for Spain. Aztec feather artwork was so beautiful that even Spanish conquistador Hernán Cortés was overwhelmed by the beauty of these feathered objects and decides to send back a lot of these feather artworks to Spain to Charles V. There was nothing like these Aztec feather artworks in Spain. One of these feather objects was Moctezuma's headdress, made in the 16th century in Tenochtitlan. Montezuma's headdress. Montezuma's headdress is a beautiful, impressive headdress made of a combination of different bird feathers, gold detailing, and leather strap. It is approximately 116 centimeters, 46 inches high, and 175 centimeters, 69 inches across, and has the form of a concentric layers of different colored feathers arranged in a semicircle. The birds that were used, the bird's feathers that were used for Montezuma's headdress. The longer and more prominent feathers used in Montezuma's headdress come from Quetzal birds. These feathers only come from the male Quetzal birds, and usually each male Quetzal bird only has 2 to 3 feathers, 2 to 3 tail feathers, sorry. 400 closely spaced Quetzal tail feathers, some 55 centimeters, 22 inches long, were used. The Quetzal feathers in the center of the headdress are raised relative to the sides. Lavicotinga, roseate, spoonbill, and Piaya Guyana bird feathers are also used to make the studding headdress. And I put a picture of each of those birds here. Amanteca. The Aztecs who made these feather artworks lived in a special quarter of the capital and were highly regarded. The Aztec feather artists were called in Nautil, the language of the Aztecs, Amanteca, or feather workers. Feather work pieces were tedious and specific to indigenous people. After the Spanish conquest, people like Hernán Cortés were so impressed that instead of halting the production of Amanteca feather workers, they shifted their subject matter. Very close to Montezuma's feathered headdress, we see the Amanteca feather workers create artwork after Spanish colonization. Instead of making ritual headdresses, they started making feather work with Christian iconography. Hybrid or tiqui are two of many terms that are used to describe artworks that display the mixing or juxtaposition of indigenous and European styles, subjects, or motifs. Friars gave native artists European prints as models to create pieces. The Portrait of Christ by Juan Bautista Ruiz. The colonial feather mosaic. This colonial feather mosaic represents the, med, the melding of indigenous and European artistic traditions. The portrait of Christ was made in the 1950s in Michoacan, Mexico, using hummingbird and parrot feather on copper support. It is about 25 by 18 centimeters and is made of feathers on copper support. Iridescent feathers from parrots and hummingbirds were strategically placed one by one to make an impressive, bigger image like this of Christ. Iridescent feather works communicate ideas about divine light. As air passed over the surface of the image, the colors would shift from the feathers into blue, purple, or pink, giving these iridescent qualities of the image a godly and beautiful form of animation. This also gave these featherwork images their Christian symbolism compared to stained glass windows in cathedrals. Once oil paint and canvases are imported, this form of art diminishes by the 17th century. Thank you for your time. Here are listed all the resources that I used for my project. Thank you again.